operating system, and my MacBook is too old for it.
Imagine that.
Yeah, so now I gotta take the plunge. I keep resisting. So I don't know if that's your problem too, Mary.
Well, I had a MacBook and it got too old. It was like 8 years old, and that was during COVID. And so I ordered an iMac and I did the transfer myself, and it has never worked right. I now have an iMac and it just is not working. And I'm calling Apple. I want either them to take it back and fix it or give me something else. I've just had it. I've had it for 2 years now, and I've spent probably 24 hours on the phone with them.
Oh,
so yeah, I wish I'd stuck with a MacBook, because that's easier actually, I think, than the iMac, but I like the bigger screen. So we'll see.
yeah, I like them. I love the MacBook. So I'm definitely going to get the same thing, but
yeah,
well, I forgot how expensive they are.
Yeah, they are. And I can do most everything with my iPad, which I just love too. And it's a lot less expensive. So, but I like the big screen for some stuff. So anyway, we should probably get started here. Is Jen with us?
She is.
Yep.
Okay. And we have, then there's 3 of us. Blair, I think, is coming on. I'm going to grab my phone and text him. And Neil, I did not hear from. And Mel is playing. She's in the city, in the community band, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Oh, Blair, where are you? Okay, because I did talk to him about childcare stuff, and so I want him to participate in that. And if I have to, I will even call him. So anyway, why don't we go ahead with approval of the February minutes?
We need a correction on the $700 figure. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah,
I believe so.
So I would move they be approved as corrected.
So it goes from 7 to 12. Is that correct? It should be 1,200.
I think 1,700.
Oh, 1,700. Okay.
Yeah, but then we took 5 out for the visitor center.
Oh, okay. I get it.
I think is how it should go.
And then that's why it's the 12 now.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
I said second. I wasn't sure if you caught that.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes as corrected with the amount to 1,700 rather than 700. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Financial report. And Tom, I want to thank you. I was gone all day today and I didn't see it yesterday, but I saw your other spreadsheet, which maybe you can pull up too in a bit. I told Tom what I get confused about, and you have the inflows and the outflows, but how much is remaining in each of our important categories, like the summer camp, the META grant, and soon to be others. I think the other one, what was the third one? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Coordinator, summer camp.
Oh, the coordinator, of course,
Yep.
the coordinator one. So that we know what's come in, what's, and what's remaining. So anyway, he put these spreadsheets together, which to me are very helpful, because as we talked about, if and when, which I think it's when we get the housing grant, that's going to be a big deal. And I talked to, obviously it's going to go through the city, but I think we're going to have to report, or we will get reports periodically about what's been spent and that kind of thing, since we are a partner in this. At least that's my assumption. And then the LWCF grant, which I'll talk about later, which it's getting close. I am forever hopeful, maybe stupidly so, but anyway, that one also has to be tracked pretty closely, and that we're going to probably do in coordination with the city. I talked to Jody about that yesterday. So, because that has to be a reimbursement. We get the money from Lions, it has to go back out. So we need to know specifically what's in, what's out, and what's remaining. So anyway, thank you. Oh, he's running late. He's getting a bum to a new mom. That's what he said. So he'll be there. Are there other comments about the financial report?
Nope.
So does that format look, I mean, I think we continue to do this because this is a more traditional way. So we know what's purchased in each month. And this is January 1st, and maybe we do it then. I don't know, do we want it monthly or do we want it for the year? What's in and out? Because he's got it now from the 1st of January 21. So this is a long
Yeah.
span of
I tried
time.
to just grab more info on that one. to
Yeah.
go back.
Do you think as we do these monthly, do we want to have them from the 1st of the year or for that month only? What's your druthers?
And I can do both.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple report. I think having both is useful. Just kind of see what we've done over the month
Okay.
versus, since the last meeting versus year to date.
Okay,
And Tom, for what it's worth, I can sit with you and show you how to do a report per, what do you call it? For per category. And so you can look at
Oh.
all of the stuff for like the marketing grant and that kind of thing. It might make this stuff a little easy for you.
Yeah, well, once I do the report, then you can click on each one and it actually shows you what's in
Yeah.
each category.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just think those important ones, and you got them, that are still existing, because there's some, obviously, we're done with the rural development grant. We're
Mhm.
done with the commerce grant. That, it's good to look at, that we know it's come in and gone out. But for right now, the coordinator, the META, and the child care or the summer camp, we need to keep track of that one. And then soon it's going to be, I think, LWCF, like within the next month or two. I'm saying. I'm very optimistic.
I'm sure that the LCWF one will have to go through this, but the housing one will never really show up because we're not
No.
awarded a certain amount of money.
I know.
So that's just a little bit different. There's not actually going to be an inflow and an outflow. It's just a pool of money that we have access to for 5 years.
But we'll know what's gone out. We'll know what money has been utilized.
Yes, absolutely.
And the city will track that on their book, their accounting program, right, Tom?
Yeah, the housing one will be definitely tracked here.
Yeah.
Yes, and it will also be tracked through NeighborWorks Montana.
Mhm.
Okay.
Cool.
So I think then all we would need, and Jen, you'll know about that, both of you and Tom will know, is just to give us periodic updates.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll probably leave it in the agenda because I think, we are an important player in that. So I want us to have periodic updates, and then Mel will hear that, and she'll probably get it from the city as well, but so that people know what we're doing, what projects are being implemented.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on the financial report? Well, thank you, Tom. And we'll have then the inflow, outflow, and then have the project by project things. So that's great. So next one is old business projects. We don't have anyone from Sweetgrass on, do we?
I didn't see anyone.
Nope.
I don't think so either.
I can't think of his name now, but he was on, the guy who was at our last meeting was on the city council meeting.
Sean
No,
McGuire.
Sean, thank you. Yep, thank you. There wasn't a whole lot new to report from them
Okay.
as of, was it a week ago Tuesday? So
Yeah, I did have a report from him that they have been in touch with Scott Allaire. I know they were looking at some brownfields, so I know that connection has been made.
awesome.
And then I can report that they had a marketing 101 class that was scheduled for earlier in the month that they had to cancel and reschedule, and that's scheduled for next Monday. So I'll be attending that in Conrad, really just to meet some of the Sweetgrass people and just see how we're doing on our own marketing and learn a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's great. I don't know if there's anything else from GFDA that I've seen recently. META obviously has a new executive director who is now on leave for a month or two, isn't she? I think I saw.
She
In the
is.
middle of April.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm sure, Jen, you will see more from that, and hopefully you can touch base with her. And I think if we can kind of get in the door initially. I mean, Gloria was such a champion of ours.
Mhm. She was a cheerleader.
one. And I think I should write her a thank you. I'm going to do that. I've got to do that because she really was wonderful to us specifically. Yeah. Anything else from other entities that we know of? So Jen, and you're going to have to go. I haven't looked at your report because I just got home. We got a new mule today and Maggie and I went mule shopping.
Okay, well, that's exciting.
It is. It's not a bum
No.
calf, but it's a mule.
Sure. So I tried to be really thorough in my report, which it's just helpful for me to have it all in writing just to see everything. And there's so much information. So I really each month will put it in writing for you just so you're staying up to date on what I'm doing. Of course, the biggest thing was the housing grant was submitted on the 16th. City Council approved a resolution to submit on the 15th of March. So that was very exciting. There were no questions. We got everything to them early, so they had a chance to look that over. And we're expecting now 6 to 8 weeks is what they told us. There's another CDBG grant that is a competitive grant, and I'm sure they have a lot of submissions. That was due to end of March. So I'm suspecting it'll be more towards 8 weeks just because they have a lot of things coming in. Ours is a non-competitive grant and you can submit it at any time. So anyway, I'm suspecting it's going to be closer to 8 weeks just because it's a busy time for them. But in the meantime, with housing, what I'm going to be moving forward with is working with NeighborWorks Montana on an MOU with what they're going to be doing for us, which is primarily loan-based, doing some application underwriting, origination of loans, things like that. And then putting together things like term sheets. And I do have a template from Helena that I'm using, putting together advertising letters to organizations here in town so we can do some advertising. They can do some advertising for us so that once we get this pool of money, we are absolutely ready to go and just jump right out of the gates with it. So that's kind of what I'm going to be using these weeks for, is preparation, getting a lot of paperwork together. There's just a lot that goes along with this. And then working also with the city, because there's really 3 people who are going to be key to making this work. One of them, Mary already talked about, Jody Rogers. She'll be the financial officer for the grant. Myself, the CAPA coordinator, is going to be the project administrator. So making sure paperwork is filed correctly, we're following the letter of the grant. And then we have a project supervisor who is really the boots on the ground person, needs to have construction background. Chris has said it's going to be a public works employee that has construction background. I don't know that that person has been named yet, but part of the administrative fee that we get through the grant will go both toward that person and toward the work that I do, is my understanding. So just establishing some of the systems for the grant so that we're ready to go out of the gate. Tom, does that sound about kind of what you're hearing from your end also?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Okay, good.
So Jen, this is Lisa. How much of your time do you think this is going to take ongoing?
That's a really good question. I was thinking about that, and I think it's going to depend on how many people apply for grant funding. I would say, it's going to be a little slower at the beginning, just as we get into the rhythm of things, but I don't think it should be any more than 5 to 7 hours a week would be my guess. If we're ready to go and we have, paperwork ready to go and everything, it shouldn't be that long. I'm hoping 5 hours a week is what I could put in on it. There's going to be times of the year where it's slower, that people aren't looking for this, non-construction times, winter, things like that. But our hope is that we have 6 to 10 people right out of the gate who are really interested in this and are ready to just go. And we can get a lot of this done depending on contractor schedule. how many contractors are in our pool and apply to be part of our pool. So a lot of that depends, but my estimate would be about 5 hours a week.
And we do have administrative funding coming in with this. What is it, 12%?
10%.
10%.
Yep.
So that's something I think to discuss with the city, and I think certainly we should be getting a share of that.
Yes. Yes. So, and then part of that can also be used for the fees from NeighborWorks Montana, which that's not figured out completely, but it's very minimal because they're not really doing a lot of work for us. They charge between $30 and $40 an hour. And she said it'll probably be just 2 or 3 hours per client. So it's going to be very minimal, but we can use part of that administrative fee for them also. Other questions on housing?
I think that this is outstanding, Jen and Tom, and I know Jody and obviously others who have worked on this. It's come a long ways very quickly, you know, since we started talking about last July and really kind of got going in December, January. This is amazing. In really 2 months, basically, to have this all done.
Yeah, it was great to have the background work already done by the city. I quickly learned how important growth policies and community surveys and then soon to be zoning. And so I think we also can use this in the future because a lot of the work that's been done for this grant could then roll over into other grant paperwork. So it's good for that. Moving on in my report, Chamber, we're just finishing up a membership drive. And so I feel like my time with them is evening out a little bit more as I have learned their systems. Of course, now we're focused on Visitor Center opening up here in a couple months and then 4th of July activities. Childcare, I will touch on more when we get down to childcare because there's quite a bit to report on that.
I have a question. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Pop in.
The visitor center, could you just tell me a little bit about it opening? I didn't know about that.
Sure. So the Chamber of Commerce is in charge of the visitor center and they open Memorial Day to Labor Day. And so it was closed in 2020. Correct me, Tom, if I'm wrong. It was open last year. And so we'll be opening it again this year. And really, we try to staff it as much during the day as possible. So right now, my job is to be in contact with volunteers and get them lined out. If we can have 4 volunteers a day, maybe even utilizing some high school students, that would be wonderful.
Okay, so it's all volunteer. Okay, great.
It is. Yep.
So if Kyle and Matthew are looking for, something to do to keep them out of trouble, send them our way.
That would be a great opportunity for service hours.
Absolutely.
One thing we could do
Oh,
is
that's a
reach
great
out
idea.
to the high school and let them know, because Wendy sends out emails saying we have opportunities for students who want to get some service hours, and here's what they are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's an excellent idea.
Great
As
idea.
long as
Thank you.
people are able to know how to properly represent the community, because
Right.
there's been times where it hasn't been the best.
Who's
Yeah,
that?
that was Corey Coverdell.
Corey's on.
He jumped on a few
Was
minutes
you,
ago.
Corey? Hi, Corey. I'm not looking at, I'm reading the report rather than looking at so I'll have to see where you are.
He's not on camera either right now.
Oh, okay.
I
There
think
we
with
go.
a little bit of training that there are kids who would be really good
Definitely.
at that.
Definitely. Yeah, our problem in the past has not been with kids. It's been with adults.
Old adults.
No comment.
I can say that.
Adults.
People.
Gosh.
Yeah, people. Yeah.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So moving forward then with other grants, I had worked heavily in January with some of the organizations in town, encouraging them to apply for the destination event grant. Those funds are almost completely depleted now from the state. $500,000 went very quickly. They have not officially closed it, but I was in contact with them and they said it's almost gone. So I'm glad that Wild Wings received that. And of course, that's going on this weekend. And then, as Mary said, we're still waiting on the LWCF funding, but I know I'll be doing a little bit of work with that also. So marketing wise, Steve has done a wonderful job streamlining social media, both Facebook and Instagram. And so we're kind of working together, and then we'll work with Tom also in making sure that stays up to date and that we are cross advertising for people. Meeting wise, I always attend the city council meetings. That's been very interesting. Steve, you had asked me to talk just a little bit about the Rails to Trails program.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the meeting that I attended was for the, I'd have to look, it's a national trail. It's the Great Rails to Trails Trail. And it actually spans from Washington, D.C. to Seattle. It's 53% completed, with most of the non-completed part being in Wyoming and Montana. And you could probably guess why. So they're looking at coming into the state in Paradise Valley and then going up through Bozeman, Missoula, following the highway. So there's all kinds of forest and rivers. There's a lot for them to tread, but it was interesting to listen in on that. I was hoping that they would be a little bit broader in their scope in talking about more just general rails to trails, but this was very specific to this trail system. But I think it's going to be an exciting thing. I mean, it's a neat thought for sure. So, and then I did attend a Department of Commerce ARPA meeting, which was interesting. The state has been awarded $11.5 million for housing, which is 3 times their normal amount. And they're a little overwhelmed, exactly how it is with childcare ARPA money. They're overwhelmed and nothing is being distributed yet at this point from this funding because they have to come up with systems for people to apply for it. So we're all just kind of on a wait and hold. And so that's where we're at with continued ARPA money. Any questions?
Yeah, I do have one on the CDBG housing grant, Jen. In terms of kind of hitting the ground running, are you planning on doing some marketing while we're waiting that, presumably 8 weeks? Are we going to hold off until we get positive affirmation that we got the money? What do you have a plan in mind for that?
I was told by Kaya Peterson at NeighborWorks Montana and by Nicole Miller at Commerce that we needed to wait until the pool of money has been awarded to us, opened to us, I should say, before we can do anything. So that's why I want to have literally everything in envelopes ready to go.
Totally.
So,
no, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you had any interest yet from any homeowners?
We have
just off the cuff.
We have had 2 people interested. As soon as we had the public hearing, we had also advertised a link that people will use in the future to show initial interest. And so we had 2 people reply to that. And so that is going to be our first line of interest for everyone. We're going to encourage them toward this site, to the city if they don't know how to use that site. And we also have some paper copies. Anything else? Okay, I'll hit trial share when we get down there.
Well, thank you very much. Very thorough, Jen. You're certainly keeping busy, and there's lots of other things to keep you busy with as well.
Well, and that is the other thing, is that I think, what I've been working on for 2.5 months is now significantly going to change. I'm going to have more time. Like I have just really done a lot of research on ARPA funding and childcare and stuff. I just did not have time to do these first months so that we could get the grant written. So, and one of those things is to continue to talk to you board members to find out what is your vision for this position, because there is going to be more time available for some of the other things in our community now.
Well, that's some of the on the discussion table this evening. So good. The letter for fundraising, I am delinquent. I said I'd do it and I've been gone a lot the last month and I just haven't done it yet. I will start a draft. I think I'll send it on to all of you, including Jen. And if Blair gets on, he's going to be helping with the fundraising for the community coordinator position, but I've been negligent. So yeah, tardy. The META grants, have we used any more of the META funding for, I know you've gotten a lot of hits recently, Steve.
Yep, the Wild Wing funding is just from their the state grant that they got, the tourism stuff that they got.
Yep.
But beyond that, not right now. I'm not running anything else. Well,
Okay.
Dinosaur Center's running their own stuff out of their own pocket, but
Okay.
not that generic pool.
But we still have some funding available. At this point, it would be 1,200, we think, right? Isn't that right, Tom?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep. And that I think is going to come down and talk about the Recreation and Tourism Committee, but certainly some more digital funding. So we have some more money there. The LWCF, and I'm going to read to you, I just pulled it up and I think I can do this. From
And-
Adam Brooks, I have to, shoot, it just went away.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. Out of that 1,200, we also said we would pay for the broken brochure holder
Oh, okay.
at the
Okey-doke.
visitor center. So,
Actually,
Thank you
hold
for
on that.
reminding me of
Jen has an update on that.
okay.
So I did some research and it was $140 for a new one, which I thought was just ridiculous for a cheap piece of plastic. And so Jason and I went up and we fixed it for $24. We were able to take off the plexiglass and put a new piece on. And so it was $24.
Sweet.
So Tom, I do have those receipts for you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So that's taken care of?
Correct.
Good, cool. I'm trying to find the email and I'm not trying to listen.
Do you
and
want me?
find
Is
to
it the
say
one
how-
that was response to Drew, Mary? Do you want me to read it?
I've got it right here.
Oh, okay.
I just found it. Drew, bless her heart, really got after the FWP guy. And he was kind of apologetic, but she sort of blamed him unnecessarily because it isn't all the fault of FWP, but it kind of got him moving. And I think the timing was just right. Anyway, we had misunderstood, and he did too, that the funding by the 18th, if it wasn't allocated, that we would lose it or have to reapply. That was not the case. That was only the applications that were submitted since December. And so our funding allocation was last July. So we were not part of that March 18th deadline. And he didn't understand that this is not his job because they have had trouble filling the position at FWP. So anyway, so our funds are still there and they had a call and oh, now I did lose that one. Oh, here it is. Based on my conversation with the National Park Service this afternoon, the last step before an award is called a purchase request. This is a submission to the Park Service's DC office to attach an approved grant to a specific block of funds so that it can be released to the grantee. That's us. The purchase request was submitted for Choteau yesterday morning, and that would have been like the 17th of March and St. Patrick's Day. And they typically take around a week to process. However, the National Park Service office in DC's backlog, so 2 weeks is more realistic. So 2 weeks from last Thursday, I think wasn't St. Patrick's Day last Thursday. Am I right on that? I think. It's more realistic. He's going to check with the grant and let us know as soon as that approval is received. So once we get that approval, we can go to work. So this is very timely. I'm sure we'll get more information on how we get the funds. I'm not sure if there's someone now in FWP that's going to contact with us with that. But once this purchase request has gone through, the funds are released to us. But again, that's the $100,000. We have to then submit money and we will get reimbursed. And I'm assuming that's to FWP. Oh, Blair can't find the link. Steve, can you send him the link by any chance,
Yep,
please?
I'm on it.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's the latest that I have. And we're going to get our money and we don't have to reapply or anything. And hopefully we can get started in April. So that is very encouraging. And as I said earlier, we've got to figure out with the city how we do actually administer this, whether it should go through city funds or our funds. Since it's reimbursed, that's something, Tom, we talked to Jody about that yesterday, or was it Tuesday, I guess. So why don't we continue to talk about that, how we're going to administer this?
Yeah, and she was thinking since it's kind of a government grant and that you were saying how it's for city
Yep,
like,
property.
that maybe the city would need to be kind of part of that grant.
Yep. But since it's a reimbursement thing, I'm not sure how it's all. So Jen, you will be involved somehow, I think, with helping with the reimbursements, probably keeping in touch with Lions. You may be doing for this kind of what you are at the housing, is you're facilitating. Okay.
Yep, I will definitely talk with Jody then and come up with a plan.
And you're going to have to be a liaison probably with Drew and Lions. Because again, when they get to work and they're going to do it right away and they have an invoice, at least it's my understanding, Lions pays the invoice, or at least has a check for it. As we said, that's always kind of, you have to have, maybe not have a canceled check, but have a check for it. And then you send that in to them, the invoice marked paid, and they reimburse half. So again, if it's 20,000, you get 10,000 back. And that is going to go to Lions because they're paying for it.
Yes.
So again, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. You may have to talk to FWP and figure out what's the best way to do all this with the city, with Lions. And I think once it's released from the National Park Service, that it's all FWP's deal. I don't think you're involved with the Park Service anymore.
Right.
So,
and is it, I know that Adam is not specifically assigned to this sort of project, but are they hiring for a new person for that position?
supposedly.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's actually, I think, one of their finance people. I think he may be even their bureau chief for finance. I'm not sure, but he's got a higher up job. He's just been given this to do.
Sure.
All depends if
Well,
they can find someone who can afford to live in Helena on state wages.
I know it. Yeah. I feel for these folks. It's frustrating. And I feel for the Park Service as well. People are leaving jobs left and right because they're getting better jobs elsewhere that are capable. And then you have new people coming in and then they get trained up and then they, it's kind of a vicious revolving door. So at least that's what I've observed.
Can
So
I
anyway,
jump,
sure, go
Mary,
ahead.
can I jump in with a quick question? And
Sure.
Steve, this might have been what you and Tom were talking about, but I had down from the NETA mini grant from January, and it is noted that $500 was going to the chamber for the visitor center restrooms. But then I also had $1,500 going toward digital marketing. Where did that show up?
It's a good question. So the $1,000 that I was talking about was prior to that.
This was from the January 27th meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought that was being shared then into a pool
with the chamber and TVID.
TVID and yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess where is that? I don't see that noted on the NETA mini grant.
Right, we haven't
Well-
committed those funds yet.
We haven't committed them yet. Although in the original grant, that was intended. Marketing was a large part of the original grant. We just haven't expended those funds. And there are two different NETA grants. And that further complicates the matter.
So that might be the $1,000. That might be the first META grant, well, depending on what the date is, Tom.
Yeah,
The first mini META grant, which was $1,000 that they gave us, like January of 21. So there may still be then
2022.
2,200 left.
that's kind of what I was thinking. But I have those grants. Did I send them to you, Tom? I know I sat down sometime in February and went through the original grants since I wrote them all to try and figure out where the money went.
I don't think I
I
have
know
any
there's,
paperwork.
what's that?
I don't think I have any of the paperwork.
Okay, it was just the grants themselves. So let me look at the grants themselves again, because I found them and I know I can do it again.
But I think maybe the $1,000 we did pay Steve came from the first META mini grant, $1,000 that we got for
Because
marketing.
I think that was cost share for the money that we got from Department of Commerce. And that was, part
No,
of
that
that.
was, it was separate. It was separate from that.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, we actually got $1,000
Well-
for the META grant.
Well,
And
among
then,
the three of us, you and I, Steve and Tom and I, we should sit down and look at that, because I have the grants, I wrote the grants, I think I know, or we can figure out where it's gone and how much we have left, because there may be more left in our general funds that were really META money than we think. And I have not done the report for this last grant. I did one for the one that we got in 19, because we've actually gotten, I think, 3 different grants. We got one from when we did the original assessment.
Mhm.
And we did the Choteau sign, and I can't remember what else, because I don't have the grants in front of me. But I will look at them again, because I know we went through it before, Tom, and I thought I had it straightened out, but I obviously don't.
Sure.
So I will find them again, because I think that's a good question, and we'll figure out how much money there is really left for META. Okay.
So what the actual minutes from January said is that the board talked about giving $500 to the chamber for their
Yep.
visitor center.
Yep.
We would then use remaining funds, approximately 1,500 for marketing and digital advertising. So to my understanding, that would be your remaining $1,200 that you're saying you have in this mini META grant.
I think so, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
So anyway,
again, we
in the
got-
January 27th minutes, if you need to look at it.
Yeah.
Because
And
they
that's,
they got extra money. Remember that, Steve? And we got an extra $1,000 out of nowhere. Remember, they had extra money from that
Yep.
grant. And so we not only got 4,500, we got 5,500.
Mhm.
Right.
Ooh.
And that we were going to put into marketing. So I think we have more like 2,200 sitting generally there that's META money. Because we talked about that at one of our previous meetings, and I'd kind of forgotten about that because it came, I want to say last spring, and it was from, what's her name? The University of Idaho.
Lori Higgins.
Yes, Higgins. Yeah, Lori. And they just had extra money from her grant that the 4,500 grant was from, and we got another 1,000. Remember that?
Yep.
So we will look into it further, Jen. And see what we can come up with, because we definitely want to have in there what we know is from that. And then so I can report back how it's been utilized, because I've done one report and I'm going to have to do, well, probably 2 more reports, I think. One for the extra 1,000 and one for the 4,500. So, okay,
Yes.
clear as mud. Okay. Recreation and tourism, and it's not a committee, it's really an advisory group. And I have not yet gotten in hold of folks. Talked to Steve a little about it. We definitely need somebody from Chambers, somebody from TBID. We have, with outfitters, downtown business people, most of whom were involved before. Forest Service had been involved. And we will try and get them together in April to advise about what other sorts of things, and Jen, that would be, and for you, for us to be looking at for marketing and branding. Do we want more signs like we had last year? Do we want, are there other sorts of recreation related things that they'd like us to look into, like trails and things like that? So, and the Friends of the Teton group has sort of gotten organized, and they would probably have some input too. So that's on the agenda for April. And it's just an advisory group, informal. Community roundtable, I think, were we going to do that this month or next month?
March is what we had on the schedule.
Well, Mary did not do it this month. So we'll try April. And see if folks have interest. I mean, it could be we may wait actually until May, kind of towards the end of the school year. I'm going to turn this back on. I actually was looking at the emails. The email from FWP. Meat processing, and don't know anything more about that. Childcare summer camp. That's the one. Is Blair on yet?
Yeah.
Oh, yay, Blair. Good. So, housing, I didn't go through that at all. Blair, I don't know if you heard, you probably didn't hear what Jen said about housing, but it's in her report. It's submitted. We're doing well. I mean, that is going very smoothly.
Yeah.
So
And she put out an email earlier as well.
Yep. Okay, great. So, Jan, why don't you go ahead and report what you had part in your report, what you've been doing with childcare.
Sure. So I'll just start with the report from summer camp. Eve Bardwell has been in contact with me regularly. Her and Annie have really started getting the planning going again on that. And so this year they're looking at a Tuesday through Thursday schedule. The camp is going to be hosted at Trinity Lutheran Church. And they do have a firm commitment already from one person as a director. They're going to be looking for one more director and 2 helpers this year. Their hope is to have 12 to 20 youth involved. And so they're really moving forward well. I had connected them with Sun River Electric to use some education capital credits that had not been claimed. And so they have an application in with Leanne at Sun River. Currently they have, I think Tom's report maybe says somewhere around 8,000. I had maybe 7,800, but they're right in there. So their goal is 10,000. So they're pretty close to their goal for this year. Of course, they'd like to go over so that they have some funds allocated for the following summer. But they're very hopeful and excited about this year. They're going to be taking kids to the pool and to the library, plugging in with some programs happening there. Food is going to be covered by Neighbors Helping Neighbors. So I think this is just a great program that's continuing into its second year that came from a roundtable discussion. You know, all the discussion, Blair, of course, you were much more involved than anybody else, it sounds like. So it's a great thing that's continuing.
Yeah,
Blair?
I talked, I guess Eve had called me probably a week and a half ago, and she just actually sent me a Excel spreadsheet on kind of budget. She just had some questions regarding budgeting and money management and things like that. So, and I got it and looked it over. I haven't got back with her. I will this week, but yeah, it looks good. I mean, they're in a good position moving forward. Of course, you know, on a thing like that, having only done it 1 year, you don't really have, you know, historic years to look at. So they're still kind of shooting from the hip, but I think they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, they're definitely moving forward with that. So I'm thankful for those two for taking the bull by the horns and just going for it again. So, no, it's good. It's good. Any other questions on summer camp?
I think I've mentioned this to you in other emails. If you need help or they need help with the Square stuff, they're planning to use that. Just let's all touch base at some point and make sure we're all on the same page.
And they're still going to use us to do their accounting, and Tom, you're getting paid, right?
Yes.
Cool.
He's shaking his head. Yeah.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
So talking about a community roundtable, you had all tasked me at last month's meeting to contact some community folks about rekindling interest in another roundtable discussion regarding childcare. So I have reached out to a number of people, Chuck Gaiman, Annie Olson, Becky Preston, Steve and Sandra D, Chuck Lavak and Melissa Moyer, Pastor Anila and Reese Rova. She's the pastor at the Lutheran Church.
Okay.
And then she suggested that I also reach out to Pastor Julie from the Methodist Church, who just had a baby. And Corey, if you're still on you're on my list also, if you're still on the call. So reaching out to some of those folks that are new parents or involved in the community or some of the major employers. I have had positive feedback from Chuck, Becky, and Anila so far. So I guess moving forward, I would love a little bit of insight of what you want this to look like, or if it's just discussion. I would guess that the hope is that another new idea is going to rise to the top and that we can move forward with that.
It just seems like the need, it continues to be there. We have no certified childcare options in town, and even non-certified options are slim. And there is supposedly going to be some ARPA money coming out designated. And the last I heard from a fellow I talked to out in Fallon County, who's working in childcare, and he heard we were, and he wanted our business plan. He said that there's supposedly going to be 17 million out of ARPA funds coming through the state designated for startup childcare entities of various kinds, community, private, nonprofit, whatever. And interestingly enough, and I told Blair this, remember Blair's idea about having a mill levy? Fallon County's doing it. This guy works for their economic development group out there, and the commissioners are on board, and they're putting it on the ballot to vote in some mills for childcare in Fallon County and Baker particularly. So anyway, and I know there are different groups, whether it's Family Connections or whatever, that has been working. And I know there's been some local interest in private certified childcare in Choteau, and that may go. And you say Chandra's also interested in a community discussion, isn't she?
She is. And so that's a whole nother part of this discussion, is that I've had Chandra Loaf reach out to me. I had reported to you all last month that she was interested in licensure for in-home daycare. And the following week, she contacted me and said she would be open to working with us and doing something more as a childcare center. She does not have funds for that. So she would look to us to, basically the plan that you had a couple years ago, she would be a person interested in being in charge of that. And so then a week later, she contacted me again with another idea. And she said, well, I don't know if this could be done or not, but she has a detached 2-car garage that she could turn into childcare also. But again, would need some funding help with that. And so I told her I would bring all of this to the board. And I don't know if it's a small group that needs to get together, but I think she wants to move forward with childcare somehow in Choteau. And so just need to get some direction from you guys, how we want to work with her or just be in discussions with her. I think she would be a good one to include in a roundtable along with Paige Shepherd, although I don't know her married last name.
Barger.
Thank you, Sparger, who is one of the primary childcare folks in town, although she is unlicensed, but I think she would be a good voice for the conversation. So.
Well,
I think it's great that she is, she's so interested and she's coming up with ideas and she's trying to find something that she can do, because our biggest challenge has always been the people to run it and staff it. So I don't know what those baby steps are that we can do to help get her. Maybe we start with helping, with credentialing. I don't know what those steps are and what makes sense. There's a lot to do.
It seems like there's kind of two things going on here. What are we willing to do to help people? That is, write grants, or connect them, and Jen did connect her with Family Connections, but there is grant funding available. And we would be the entity that would probably support a grant. And then the other thing is through a roundtable, finding out from community folks what kind of an entity are they could be considered that we might support. Would we support funding for a private individual who wants to get a grant for a startup? Would we support funding for a nonprofit who wants to do that? And I think that's kind of a conversation that we as the Port Authority have to have, as well as hearing more again from the community. So I don't know who's in first and what's in second in those two issues. Blair, I know you've done childcare stuff.
Yeah, I don't have any answers, Mary. There's a lot of variables. I don't know that in any of the scenarios that we were looking at fundraising, was there a private residence involved? So that to me is a whole different deal.
Yep, it is.
So, I wish I had answers for you. I think I agree with Lisa. It's nice to have somebody in the community that is looking for this. Unfortunately, as you remember, the problem we ran into was time issues. It's like, if you want something next year, you start today, and you had missed a few deadlines. There's unfortunately a lot of those grants have specific deadlines, and we've been out of it for 2 years now, or a year and a half anyway. We'd have to kind of just start over and just start looking at, what grants are out there, and start beating the bushes a little bit. But if Sandra's, truly interested in doing it, that would be a critical, part of the puzzle that we never really had before.
At the moment, what I have encouraged her to do is just continue pursuing the in-home licensure, and she's doing her CPR and first aid and things like that. So I'm encouraging her just to move along with that at this point until we as a community can move further forward.
You don't know if that 3,000 is still available through DPHHS for startups. Remember, Heather talked about that a lot, that they will help private individuals or community or nonprofit or whatever the kind of center might be to help them get certified. And that you don't know if that's still available or not through Family Connections.
If you're asking me, I have done some research, and everything for startups is on hold right now while they're figuring out what to do with this ARPA money. It literally on their website says coming soon for startups.
Well, then that gives us some breathing room to see, once this comes down, what do we want to support and what does the community want? I think if we were to get together those that have expressed interest now and say, okay, do you think that the Port Authority should work on grants for private individuals who want to go, and that's working with a business, which we have done. So similar to like Scott Laird, that's just giving direction, but we could write grants, support a private individual who wants to open a certified childcare operation. We could go back to a community one, but I don't know what the sense is from people in the community, what they're looking at. Do they just want a series of more private certified childcare options, or do they want a community childcare option that could include after school, the summer camp, childcare, all sorts of things. And I don't know what people are interested in, so I don't know how we can decide what we want to support.
Well, and I think it's more what's feasible too. I mean, it may not be feasible to do the community daycare.
But if there are a series of private individuals that want to become certified and want to apply for these from ARPA funding or DPHS funding or other sorts of funding, are we going to help them? Like writing a grant for them or helping them write the grant. And that would be Jen's effort. And I don't know.
Well, I think that those are all good questions for a community roundtable. Blair, are you still interested? Because I would need to work with one of you at least, hopefully 2 or 3 of you, to come up with a date. I'm thinking sometime maybe in late April to have a discussion. Who is still interested in that on this board?
I'm always willing to have a discussion. We, sadly, we, originally we put a lot of time and energy unfortunately, we didn't really harvest any fruit from it, but that's not to say that we should give up. I think I wouldn't have the time that we did originally, especially this time of year, but I would be more than happy to stay involved at some level and, offer what we've learned so far. Unfortunately, Jen, it's a moving target because everything that we were up on 2 years ago is completely different today, so, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's, it's going to be an ongoing concern forever until it's solved. And so it's something that we need to do. So I'm definitely willing to help.
What was the school's response?
Chuck just said that he would be interested in coming together for a discussion. He says, yes, it's still an issue for his teachers, and he would be interested in the discussion. And I really build it as, let's get together for an hour to an hour and a half to discuss the need. And that's just the starting point. I mean, research has shown, Mary, you had sent me an excellent article from a very similar community in Iowa that tackled childcare. And they are doing a community center, and it was 7 years in the making. So this is not a short-term sort of thing, but the discussion has to start somewhere. And even if one small idea rises from that discussion that then we can move forward on, it seems like that would be the way to go. At least we're keeping it at the forefront every couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. Keeping the discussion active.
Yeah.
And I'm interested too. I mean, and Steve, you've got a baby, Steve. Come on.
I am interested in the topic, kind of the same caveat as Blair. My plate and cup runneth over, and so interested, but from the eaves and where I can support, especially kind of making connections with other groups that I'm part of.
Well, I'm happy to go to a round table in April and get folks together again, because I really think that's kind of the first step. And then I think we need to continue to discuss then, if people from this meeting say, hey, doing a community one's never going to work, but there are a lot of private individuals, will you help them? Then we have to discuss how we're going to do that and what might be available, since we don't know really what funding is available, but we know there will be some. And we have Rhonda here, who I hope Rhonda would come to the roundtable to talk about what the state's doing now.
Yep.
She's the most knowledgeable. And, get that group together. I don't know if we put it out on Facebook or something. If there are others who want to be involved, I'm thinking about Megan Lee. I think that could be of something. She has a little baby.
Okay.
So,
well, then I'll be in touch, Mary and Blair, to come up with an evening and then do some advertising and get the discussion started.
there is a Facebook page that Becky Preston did when they were, and that's kind of how they got the summer camp together. So definitely contact the summer camp. And that was when they reached out to find out who was interested. Becky did quite a bit with that Facebook page. I think it's a Teach on Childcare project, wasn't it, Blair? Was the Facebook page?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
So that would be another thing to use now and to kind of reinvigorate. Do
Excellent.
most of you feel this is something for Jen and for the Port Authority to spend time on?
Yes.
Okay,
Agreed.
good.
Yeah, I
Lisa?
think so. I mean, I'm not sure who else would do it. So, I mean, that's kind
Yeah,
of
not either.
Lisa,
why
I
we're
think-
here, right?
And I also think getting the extension involved a little bit,
Oh,
because
yes.
they do the babysitter boot camps, which isn't exactly what we're talking about, but I think that they are also a really good resource.
I think that's good. I bet Jane Woolery would come. She might. I wouldn't say she would, but she might. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, why don't you do that then sometime? That sounds good. I feel this is something I feel we need to be doing, and something's going to happen. We just have to be patient and persistent. Persistence pays off. Okay. Anything else in that?
Nope.
Okay, just new business, a few things I put down, and maybe you folks have others. There are new businesses in town, like that new boutique thing kind of near Country Hallmark and the Hinch Building. Obviously, Brian is moving to the new coffee place. Maybe there are others coming that I don't know about. I'm sure there are. Steve, you're the one that has the ear to the ground in that.
Not a particularly new business, but probably one worth visiting with is and Jen, you know the name of it, Conservation Grains. Is that the correct name for the business?
Oh, yeah.
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 Judy
Uh,
Cornell.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the ones off the top of my head. There's been a few folks moving to town who Mel did a story about the woman who used to be affiliated with the Butte Chamber of Commerce. She moved somewhere else, came back to Montana, moved to Choteau. She'd be another one. I don't think she's a business owner specifically right now, but she'd be a good one to visit with. Just broad discussions. There's a few folks around town.
I wonder, Jen, if you want to contact them and if they would like to even attend a meeting and talk about what they're doing. We did that. We did that pre-COVID. We haven't done it much since then, but we did for a lot of different groups that would come and talk about what they're doing. I shouldn't say a lot, but we had some new business folks come.
Sure, and that would be to the board meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
we've had them come, but I think chat with them first as to what they're doing, let them know who we are, what we're doing, how can we help them. Another one, because they happened during the pandemic, is the Bison Mercantile, although they've been aware of us and we reached out to them.
Flying Bison?
Yeah, flying, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, Flying Bison.
Okay. Yep.
Do you guys think that's a good idea? Have Jen contact them, and if they're interested in coming and just even introducing themselves in a meeting, and maybe we even have an in-person meeting before the end of the year?
Sure.
If you're interested,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that towards next meeting. But anyway, other events, I know you had that in your report, folks that you've reached out to as far as assisting with events. Are there other events that are coming up that we could look at, help with, assist, or that we don't know about?
Not that I have on my agenda. I feel like March was going to be a really busy month, and it has been. Last weekend was big in town, so there was a lot going on.
There was, yeah.
Yeah, there really was. I don't know that this would be an event, Mary. I had emailed to you, but I'd like to put before the board. There's a Montana Housing Partnership Conference happening in June, and it's a virtual. All of the state organizations are going to be there, and it is one I feel like I'm learning how often these conferences come across our desks, and this is one that actually caught my eye. So it might be something for next month to discuss if it would be profitable for me to attend. Again, it's virtual, but they had a lot of rural housing that they were going to be discussing. They're going to try to tag in some childcare in that. So just something for me that might be helpful.
Okay, and that's a housing conference, and who's putting that on? That's
It's
not through MEDA, isn't it?
It came to us through MEDA,
Yeah,
but it's called the Montana Housing Partnership Conference.
Okay.
And it's put on by Montana Housing Partnership.
Okay.
So I emailed that to you, maybe something we could discuss next month.
Okay, it will be on the agenda. Anything else for events? And this is just my own personal thing. There's a state parks position that's open for Teton, Glacier, Pend Oreille counties, this area. And we don't have a state park, and it's kind of sad. I served on that board for 3-4 years. It's a very active board. They're doing a lot of really good things. And state parks are an engine in Montana. And so if you know of anyone who would all be interested, it's boards at mt.gov, and then you can look on the website for the governor's office, and you can find out about the Parks Board. I think the opening is going to close fairly soon. It's been in the papers. I think Mel maybe is going to put something in the paper. So it really, it's not real time consuming, but I think it would be an interesting thing, particularly if we ever would like to have a state park someplace here along the front, Augusta, Choteau, on up to Depouillier, along there.
Eureka's campsite doesn't fall under that, does it? Is that purely FWP? Okay.
Yeah. It's a fishing access site. Although they're now under parks, kind of, for maintenance. It's not a state park. Yeah. Anyway, public comment. Is Corey still on?
He is.
You want to say anything, Corey? For the good of the order?
Not really. Don't have much. Just thank you so much for all the work you guys have been doing. Like, I've been watching for the last couple of years about just how much money you guys are bringing into the community and how much work you guys are putting into it. into it, and you guys are really making a difference. So thank you so much for your work.
Well, it is rewarding. I think it's given out opportunities, and Jen is such a plus to have her. I mean, it's just made life a whole lot better. So thanks, Corey. Next meeting is April 28th. Do you want to do it in person? With a Zoom option if people want to? I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
That'd be fun for me.
sure. You could actually see all of us in one room.
Yeah.
Okay, and it'd be at city offices at 5:30,
Okay.
April 28th. Okay. Anything else?
Move to
Hearing
adjourn
none.
if we need it.
Second.
Okay, it's a motion to adjourn. We all agree. We're done.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm getting
Bye.
less and less formal in my old age. Now that